view, get the video working. There he is. There he is. Hello there, Simon. Let me just stop this. Congratulations to the show. Yes, we are back, and it's our 12 months on the air. So I thought we'd have a little, look, we've got a little candle here, little cake. Yes. Happy birthday to us. We don't look a day over 49. Want to give that a blow? Speak for yourself. There you go. We can't eat the cake because it's my daughter's birthday at the weekend and she wants the cake back. Yes. She said you can borrow it for the programme, but I want to actually eat that cupcake. Yeah, 12 months on the air. We've reached the grand old age. We've made it to the grand old age of 50. More than 50 hours of consumer broadcasting, light entertainment, and both quality TV and radio. Now, if we're led to believe Malcom Gladwell's 10,000 hours principle, this means we've only got another 9,950 hours to go, and we'll have it perfect. So that's only another 200 years, and we'll have aced the whole thing. Yes, well on our way to becoming the owners of a consummate broadcasting brand with more than 2 centuries, and we're going to be there. Today's show is going to be a little different this week, as we've reached the epoch of our half-century. We've also been broadcasting for more than a year. We thought we'd mark the very prestigious occasion by celebrating the 50 shows that we've put together and giving you an insight into your 2 presenters, namely moi, a one-time journalist, now turned TV director, and him, that chap there, a former radio guy who now coaches radio guys in a secret government location. So secret, in fact, that if I was to tell you where he worked, he'd have to kill you.
That's right, Rich. Yes, I am, of course, a modern-day Roger Moore. I was named after Roger Moore, but with more meddling and, frankly, more acting range and experience. I can raise both eyebrows. Thank you. And to thank you to the viewers that look like The Rock.
Yes,
it's a mistake. It's a mistake that many people make. I'm always called The Rock. It's like being called Dwayne Johnson at Lewisham School for the Blind.
That's right.
As well as Ainsley Harris. Always people call me Ainsley Harris.
Oh, that's true,
So this week we're going to take a look at the past year's fish and chip wrappings in the news. We're going to take you inside our very own favourite driving roads in the lost highways, and we'll reveal the vehicles which created the men we are today that you see before you now in the cars that made us. We have a new feature, the COVID corner, since this is the COVID times, and we're going to look at how the Wufu, or the Wuhan clan. Is that right?
Oh, the Wuhan clan. Excellent. Very good. Very topical.
Seeing how it's affecting the global motoring industry. So without further ado, let's go on with the show. I'm Simon Citroen. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. You look like a toilet and you smell like 1, 2.
Simon Sujuwan there, folks, who's obviously been spending far too much time with my children. And I'm Richard Green, and I'm sure you would agree, what would be fit more perfectly than to have a world party on the day you came to be. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. And that's why Stevie Wonder hasn't written a decent song since 1980. I'm afraid it's true. Anyway, this is Car-boyz.
Car-boyz.
And we have a new sponsor of the show. Our sponsor this week.
What is it this week?
The brand is called Poke.
Good old
There we go. Poke. Touch the can, awake the lawsuit. And it's from the Weinstein group of companies. So a great little brand to sponsor the program today, Poke. Now I usually have my rant on this part of the show. I usually have a little rant, but just to say, there's no ranting this week. I am spent, especially as I've had to complete my online driver awareness course. Obviously, I passed with flying colours. I agree. I had 100% with the tutor. I also worked out that you could swap your live video feed on Zoom for a photograph, just like so. So I could have a little sleep during the course. Obviously, I was paying attention to my tutor, and I learned a lot about road safety and jumping a red light. Namely, that you shouldn't, and if you do, check there's no cameras about. Simon, points on your license. How many? What traffic sins have you been found guilty of?
I have 0 points on my license.
You are good.
Obviously. But I have had a drive-in a box junction fine and drive-in a bus lane fine.
Yes, I've done that. The worst with the bus lanes, do you find that you're trying to remember when you can drive in it? Because in London, and many of the bus lanes are not 24-hour, or was it
Yeah,
just you just thought you were being a bit cheeky?
it was a while ago, yes. So yeah, I just thought, yeah, drive in the bus lane.
I've had 6 points in total. All of them are gone currently, we hope. But mostly, not me intentionally speeding, but me driving late at night at 2 o'clock in the morning, forgetting that there's a speed camera coming up, and just being tired. And there's no other traffic on the road, and you suddenly look down and you're doing 42 in a 30-mile-an-hour area, and
Yeah.
yes, got popped twice. That's happened to me. I've had the yellow box a couple of times. I've had the red line once, and I once got a parking fine, a camera parking fine, which was very weird, outside a hairdresser's. I'd gone in, and it went. It was a camera there waiting to people to park on a single yellow at a certain time of day. There was a count. It's gone now. Oh no! I also had a parking ticket off Richmond Council, who I parked on a double yellow on a Sunday. I assumed nobody had been around. They gave me the fine, and then a while later, the borough of Richmond was taken to court by a barrister who wanted to know when the cameras were calibrated, and none of their mobile cameras. If you've seen them, they're little. They're smart cars with a periscope on the top.
Oh yeah.
None of the cameras on there were calibrated, so all of the fines were invalid. So he didn't have to pay his fine. Unfortunately, the council, in its wisdom, decided not to give me my money back. But those camera cars have absolutely disappeared.
And then probably then calibrated their camera cars.
Oh yeah, they would have done that afterwards. I mean, look, with all those fines, with everything like this, we've said it before, and we will say it again. This is purely revenue raising. All of this.
Totally.
I don't feel guilty about getting fines. I just go, well, okay, I made a mistake. Yeah, I'll pay the fine, but it's revenue raising. I'm not sure how much. If you really wanted to go down the road of making this actually work, you would do what you do in Australia, which is you hide the cameras, or you do what you do in America, and the fines are so extortionate. We're talking hundreds of dollars, that you don't want to do it. You go, $300 fine. You're like, whoa, I'm never going to make this mistake. But they don't want to do. They want to chip away slowly at the people who actually bother to register their cars and insure their cars and pay the bills of the police already. So they just want to have a little bit more money off you. I finished. That's turned into a rant at the end, and I didn't mean it to. But anyway, there we go. Should we have some car news?
Yes, let's go for some car news.
I do like that cymbal crash at the end. That's fantastic. Yes, time now on Car-boyz to take a look at the news. But unlike our usual roundup of the week's news stories, as it's the 50th episode of the show, our half century, we're going to look back at the highlights from the news that we've been covering in the past year. And first off, in Axis Power's Unite Again news, back in July last year, we announced on the show that BMW were not ruling out creating a mid-engine version of their Toyota Supra, of the Toyota Supra. Now, the Japanese car maker had decided to leave the building of the car in a pair of safe German hands. The car was manufactured in Austria, but BMW M Division boss Markus Flasch, who was in charge of the Toyota production, said he was also considering a hot version of the car in the future with a 503. I think it's all right for me to do an impression of a German. They're the only people left we can do impressions of. A 503 brake horsepower engine earmarked for the M3 and M4 to be installed in a future GR Supra. At the time, Herr Flasch said, "We've certainly made no offer to supply the engine to Toyota, and the request has been made, as far as I know. But it is an interesting idea, if unlikely for now." I've got to stop that, it's hurting. But it would be a lot for us to give away, you might say. But you'll never say never, like that James Bond film. So, yeah, tell the difference between the two. The top is the new Toyota Supra, and the bottom is the Z4. The new Toyota Supra, manufactured by BMW, is effectively a Z4, from the engine right down to the switch gear. What they did very cleverly, though, is replace all the badging. You don't find any BMW logos. You don't find any BMW serial numbers. Everything on it says Toyota, which is cool. but I wouldn't
Yeah.
really trust the build quality of this car. Austria also used to manufacture the X3, which is a terribly built car and mostly made of plastic, certainly an awful off-roader. So I wouldn't be rushing out to buy that Toyota Supra.
If anything, recent BMW's anything to go by, it will fall apart.
Yes, unfortunately. I'm also confused that car manufacturers used to compete against each other, and now the old days of Ford parts bin for Jaguar or Aston Martin, it just seems everybody borrows off everybody else.
Yeah.
Nobody makes their own kit anymore.
There's a great, I can't remember where I'll have to find it again, but there's a thing that says who owns what and who gives what to what manufacturer. And you basically
Really?
find that every car is the same. But I'd like to be in that department where Mr. Hair Flash is, because everyone would just sing Flash Gordon.
Oh, not in Germany. Why would you say that? We are not funny people.
Anyway, way back in October, we found out that people who sell cars continue to be the lowest form of life. News. It was announced that the sale of car finance is set to undergo a crackdown after the UK financial regulator revealed that it uncovered unfair practices, among some retailers and brokers in the way that made them commission on sales. In the report issued, the Financial Conduct Authority, which is the FCA, revealed that some sellers earned staged commission according to the interest rate at which the cars they were sold at, a greater bonus on offer for charging customers more. That seems to be how it works. Christopher Woolard, I have a friend called Chris Woolard, Executive Director of Strategy at the competition at the FCA, said, by banning this type of commission, we believe that we will see an increase in competition in the market, which will ultimately save customers money. The FCA is now proposing to enforce a fixed commission fee rather than tethering it to the interest rate at which it is sold. It says the move could save drivers £165 million a year. That's not one driver, is it? That's
no,
hopefully
not just the one.
The FCA consulted on the proposed new rules until January, and they were supposed to be implemented then in 2020, but that's out the door because of the dreaded Cortina 19.
Yes.
So they had to sharpen up their act. They did.
If you, the advice I would give anybody buying a car, if you've got the cash, so you've got £5,000, go and buy a car for £5,000. Forget hire purchase, forget for taking out a loan on the Never Never and buying a car off. Just go and get the car. All right, it's not the newest model. You'll lose huge amounts of depreciation on anything you buy new. Leasing is okay, but it's costly. I mean, you cannot, as I think we revealed last week, with Fiat doing a deal with a £99 per month leasing deal. By the time you racked up the other charges, you're looking at a couple of £100, excluding insurance, excluding putting the petrol in, excluding the servicing. So £200 a month after a year is £2,500. You can buy an okay little car for £2,500. I have a car on my driveway that's 16 years old. It's coming up to 100,000 miles. It's worth about £600 and it works. It doesn't break down. It's a Japanese car. It's not exciting, but it works. Every time I get in it, I put the key in it, turn it. It costs me probably 400, 500 a year to run. But so what? My cost is 400 to 500 a year to run a car. Yeah. So that's what working out a week, £10 a week, £40 a month.
And eventually, because it's depreciated, you're not going to lose money on it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, the most I'm ever going to lose on that car is the £500 that it's worth, and I'm still going to get a couple of £100 for its scrap. Yeah. So it's just, I just think people want it too easy. There's a great new advert that's been doing the rounds. A company that you can buy the car online and then they deliver the car to your house.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen that.
And I sit and go, okay, what about the dents? What about checking that everything works? I mean, that's the whole point of going to a garage or going to somebody else's house you're going to buy the car off, kicking the tyres, going, and the old adage of, well, can you throw in a pair of mats and a full tank of petrol? You know, you negotiate. It's quite fun to do this. I don't even think you have to know a lot about cars. You just have to know what it's worth, what you're buying, what you need to take off. I mean, it's great to go around a car, and I've done it before and gone dent, 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 rust, dent. Okay, yes, I'm now taking £1,000 off this, and watching the blood drop off people's faces. Go, well, I don't care. That's what it's worth. So I would always suggest people, if they can, just go out and buy a car. Right, moving on. Last Christmas, we had knee-jerk reaction by climate change alarmist car news. Bristol City Council in the west of England was considering barring diesel cars from the centre part of the city in an effort to improve air quality and obviously deprive people of taxis home. If the local authority approved this clean air zone, Bristol would have become the first city in the UK to ban diesel vehicles. Under the proposal, diesel vehicles would be banned from entering the central section between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. every day. Okay, so you'd have been fine getting your taxi home at 2 o'clock in the morning. A second wider zone would have affected commercial vehicles, including buses and taxis. Hang on a second. So you couldn't have got a bus. So hang on. Is Bristol Council saying either cycle or walk or drive a petrol car? Okay.
Yeah,
Now this would not, but don't get on a bus. But these would not be barred, but owners would have been charged if they entered the zone with vehicles which do not meet Euro 6 emission standards. So poor white man van won't be able to drop off his supplies in the shops. Jocasta in her giant 4x4 won't be able to drop off Tarquin and Hermione at private school, as nobody's going to school at the moment. It doesn't really matter. Officials also hope to launch a car scrappage scheme which would help people buy new electric cars. I don't know whether that was Bristol City Council suggesting that, but like so many good ideas, often flawed because Bristol has absolutely no public transport service, no trains, no trams. The bus service is hourly in Bristol.
What?
Yes, so you can be on the outskirts of Bristol on a main road, and you're like, yeah, next bus, another 40 minutes, another 50 minutes. I don't know how people are going to get around. It's a stick without the carrot, but to update you on the story, they've given this plan the go-ahead. It was all going to happen, and then the woo flu has happened, or as we call it here on Car-boyz, Cortina 19. So it looks like that is out of the door. And aside from that, I've been commuting in this week into London, not in rush hour, outside rush hour just about, and the traffic's getting bad because everybody's returning to work, nobody's on the bus. And the great thing about the buses, I found out today, you can only have 10 people on them. Did you know this story?
So if you've got a single-decker bus, you're only allowed 8 people because they've got a sign that says 8 people.
Right.
And if it's a double-decker bus, it's 20.
Would it not be easier to just give people cars? I do think, I keep seeing the bus go past my window here. Every 15 minutes, another bus with nobody on it. Nobody on it. Yeah. Nobody's on it, but everybody is in their car. I think it's your turn to do the final
I'll
one.
do this
Sorry,
one. Yeah.
Yes, you do this
finally,
one.
We'll do spring is the time of year. We ran the story where a vacuum cleaner salesman who lost some money news. It is, of course, billionaire inventor Sir James Dyson, who loves this country so much that he moved his headquarters away to Singapore. Yes. He says that he's lost £500 million of his own money on an abandoned project to build a groundbreaking electric car. Dyson's eponymous technology company established a Dyson's automotive division with 500 staff and a commitment to invest 2.5 billion into technology, including the electric car project. As you can look at the picture there, it looks like it's probably powered by a vacuum cleaner engine. Development had begun in 2014, but in October last year, Dyson scrapped plans for the car, which had been due to launch in 2021 because he didn't feel the project was commercially viable. Dyson and his family topped this year's Sunday Times rich list with an estimated net worth of £16.2 billion, which is an increase of £3.6 billion from 2019, as well as confirming that he'd lost £500 million, which is 500 million, on the abandoned scheme. Dyson said that the 7-speed SUV codename N526, which trips off the tongue very well, had a 600-mile range and could achieve 0 to 62 in 4.8 seconds with a top speed of 125 miles an hour. Surprising that, because it does look like a brick. Speaking about the economics of the project, Dyson said, I don't have a fleet. I've got to make a profit on each car or I jeopardize the whole company. And in the end, it was too risky. So there you go. Dyson and his vacuum cleaner. But then they're just like scaled up C5 Sinclair's.
Well, yeah, effectively. And as I was going to say, if it had, maybe it would have been successful if a South African billionaire had invested in it and thrown a couple of rocks at it. That
Out
could
the
have
window.
been, yeah, very cool. Yeah, look at that. And smashed it. I don't have a violin small enough to play for how much I care about Mr. Dyson and his abandonment of Britain. Although, weirdly, he owns a lot of Britain. He is a big land purchaser in the UK, despite the fact he doesn't want to give anybody a job here. And I was going around saying, well, you know, the guy's going to have no legacy. Nobody's ever going to build a statue to him, are they? Remember what a philanthropist he was. But then currently nobody really wants to have a statue anyway. So maybe we should just forget the whole thing about statues. But yeah, there it is. There we go. And that's what's sort of happening to Mr. Dyson's car. So that is our roundup of the 2019-2020 car news, as was covered by Car-boyz. We've got some new music. Yep, it's time for a special one-off feature within the programme here on Car-boyz. We call it COVID Corner to celebrate our 50th anniversary. Our Golden Jubilee, so to speak. We're going to take a look at how the coronavirus, or what we like to call it, Cortina 19, we really must trademark that, has affected the motor trade, your driving, and the future of motoring in general. Enough of that. First off, sales globally of cars are down to around 3% of previous levels. Sales haven't been lower since 1945 in Europe, when a certain country had decided to do a very unsuccessful European tour. Couple to this, manufacturers are laying off staff left and right. Jaguar, Nissan, Ford, Aston Martin, and Bentley, all axing jobs here in the UK. And then jobs linked to the motor trade are being axed. Insurers, car rental firms, people are not buying cars right now, and I can think that it's going to have an effect on the manufacture of electric cars as well. If you do want to own a car and you want one that will last for at least a few years, maybe it doesn't have to have all the dancing gadgets like a Tesla. Maybe right now people are just going out there and buying an old 2001 Honda Civic. I think that's what people are doing. They're keeping their money on the down low. They don't want to spend. They're worried about what's going to happen out there. They certainly don't want to take a risk on getting an electric car. And I've got a friend who just before COVID was about to start a new job installing electric points for electric cars. So how that's going to pan out for him, I don't know.
Which is all strange, and in these strange times, of course, the decline in people motoring has led to the fall in oil price as well, because of lack of consumption. We're all in our homes, self-isolating, washing our hands, and not driving to work, or holidaying, or going anywhere, basically for pleasure, apart from the supermarket, which can also be a pleasure for some people.
Yeah.
Not for us though, it isn't a pleasure. Of course, we're now being warned about the second wave of the virus coming back, which we are going to be calling the Cougar 20, which of course we're sticking, of course, with the Ford theme. So we've gone from Cortina to Cougar, and the second wave is going to be called the Cougar 20. And yes, people haven't been driving for weeks. There's been a rise in the accidents here in the UK with idiots forgetting how to drive cars or speeding. In Canada, our friends in Canada, the number of drink driving arrests the drink driving arrests have gone up. So I'm assuming they're drinking more because they're inside. But they've gone up by 30%. Well, if the roads are clear, you may as well get pissed and drive. And the public, what about public transport? We're here in London because we live in London. None of us are using it.
No.
Everyone is in their cars and not on the bus. The tube trains were filthy before, and they're still going to be filthy now. But you had the added bonus of coronavirus thrown in. The most expensive transport system on the planet, more expensive per mile than Concorde, which probably has less chance of coming back than coronavirus.
Really?
I think, it may be coming back.
I heard the rumour that Concorde's coming back.
No, it won't come back.
Oh, and I do have a question for you as well, because you're Mr. Planes.
I do, yeah.
Why are they getting rid of the A380, even though it's a newish plane? Like the 747's just about to go, and that's been around for 50 years. The A380's been around 15 years, 10 years?
It's about 10 years. It's not very long.
Yeah, I mean, I think I flew on to Singapore 8 years ago, and I was really excited. Look, this is the new plane. And somebody explained it to me that we've got another new style of plane that can take half the amount of people that an A380 can, but it uses half the fuel. I went, yeah, but isn't that the same? I've been teaching my daughter maths. That would be the same thing. So 2 planes rather than 1 plane.
So the thing is, demand for air travel has gone down now because of coronavirus, which is one thing. And 4 engines, obviously not going to be as fuel efficient as having 2 engines. So that's the reason why. So,
but if you could take twice as many people with 4 as you can with 2.
Yeah, I get that, but that's said, the demand isn't there. Air France retired theirs yesterday.
Wow!
After about less than 10 years, British Airways ones are all parked up. Singapore, I hear a rumor they are going to start flying some of theirs again, but they've given some back to the leasing companies. And Qantas don't even fly here to Britain at the moment.
Wow!
So
literally mothball with a view to getting rid of.
Yeah, all the airlines. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's only 1 airline in the whole world that is flying their A380s, which is China Southern, and they only use it to bring in PPE stuff. That's all they use.
Wow. Okay, this is frightening. Do you think, I mean, this is completely getting off with what we're supposed to talk about on the podcast, but I don't care. This is our 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
You know, we've got the cake, the new sponsor, Poke, touch the can, await the lawsuit. They don't care. Do you think we're actually going to end up with 1 country, 1 airline?
It may be that way, because I don't think any airline is safe, and they're all running out of money. So, yeah, lots of the airlines. Some of them are starting back up because a lot of the borders are opening up again. But yeah, it's not looking good for it.
Okay, this is slightly frightening. Well, okay, well, hopefully it doesn't end up like that. But that's sort of our COVID roundup as it stands now. Time now on the show to take a look back at not an historic vehicle. We usually do a classic car selection. That is out of the window because this is our 50th anniversary. We're looking at our very own cars in a special Jubilee feature called The Cars That Made Us, but with the same old music.
Come on, band.
Come on, band. Off you go.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's enough of that. I've just recorded the band now. I've murdered them all. I've had enough of the jazz band in the basement. It cost me a fortune.
You have to furlough them.
Yeah, they've been furloughed. Permanently. I want that. I want to see that in a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I have furloughed him permanently. Has he been furloughed? Permanently furloughed. Have you been watching some of the videos that Arnold Schwarzenegger has been putting out as well?
No.
Oh, they are great. Have a look on YouTube. It's like, I've been out for a ride on my bicycle with my girlfriend, and I'm now in the jacuzzi enjoying a cigar. Yeah, all right, Arnie. You're
Brilliant.
A multi-millionaire. You can afford to sit on your ass and do nothing. I might take an acting class later on. Okay, so sorry, I got sidetracked. This is on, it's not a classic car selection, it's the cars that made us. So we're going to talk about the cars that we have owned. I will be starting off with all the cars that I've owned and how they made us. And I started to learn to drive in a 1983 Fiat Panda, which was an absolute pile of rubbish. It rusted from the bottom up. There were holes in the footwell. There were holes in the door. We replaced one of the doors. It was a red car with an orange door that we found at a scrap dealer's. The doors literally rusted from the bottom up. By the time we sold the car, there was a gap like this under the driver's side, a hole like this under the footwell, and the car had only done 40,000 miles. They just rusted from the outside in, and then there's of course
inside. Yeah.
Well, there's a famous thing when they started to galvanise the outside of the Fiat Pandas to stop them rusting. My cousin had one of these, and I said, "Was it any good?" She said, "No, it rusted from the inside out because as soon as the water ingressed on the inside, that's where it started to rust." But the first car that I bought with my own money, I'd previously driven an old Fiat. I'd driven my mother's Fiesta of the vintage that I believe that you had, but I went out and bought this. It was a look at it. 1980. This is not the car, but this is the same spec and the same colour.
Yes.
A 1987 Citroen AX 10 RE It wasn't just the R, it was the RE.
Was
I think
the 10 the amount of horsepower it had?
it was not far off. I just looked this up the other day. I was shocked at how I think it had about 60 HP.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It was a peppy engine, 1987 Citroen AX 10RE, 32 on the clock. It had been left in a garage in Edinburgh for 3 years and not driven. I got it for £1,600 in 1995. I drove it for 3 years. I put 60,000 miles on the clock. I learned to drive in this car. I drove it from Nottingham every week. I drove all over the Cotswolds. I once went from Stratford upon Avon to Halifax, crossed the Pennines to Manchester, and back to Stratford upon Avon in a weekend. This only had a 954cc engine. I drove it to Brussels. I drove it down to Felixstowe, caught a ferry with this car, drove all the way to Belgium with this little monster. It only broke down on me once in 3-4 years that I owned it, and that was an ignition module failure.
Oh, okay.
Nothing else went on it.
Yeah.
You couldn't go over 80 miles an hour, though, because it would vibrate. I had a tape deck, and if you did AC1, it made every song sounded like Belinda Carlisle. You know, oh, baby, do you know what it's worth?
It's not funny.
Everything. It wasn't funny, especially when I was trying to listen to Motorhead. Lemmy sounded like Belinda Carlisle. And I sold it to a bloke who had a TVR and needed a small, reliable car for the winter. All this was plastic, and the back hatch was plastic because it was a hatchback. But there was a piece of glass, and then the bottom of the car wasn't metal; it was blue plastic. If you slammed it too hard, you could snap it.
At 82 miles an hour, did the panels just sort of like peeling off?
It did start to look like the DeLorean when it was going through. Things were moving around. And as I just talked to you before the show, I was reminded it came with no cigarette lighter. I think I had to have the 11 RE, not the 10 RE. Yeah, and it didn't. This actually was a better version of mine. This looks like it's got alloys. Mine had steel hubcaps and plastic hubcaps that I put over the top that I was always losing and finding in ditches when I went back from the pub.
On the side of the road.
Yeah, on the side of the road, some kind old bloke with a dog. I'll put that there by that tree, and then I'd come along and find it. It was an all right little car. It was a peppy engine. This was almost the last era Citroen made decent cars because it didn't let me down. It didn't fall to bits. My wife hated it. She was my girlfriend at the time, and she used to drive it and hated that car. I moved on, but by 1998, I'd moved up in the world. I was working in local radio and had a little bit of money in my pocket.
Ooh.
And I bought this bad boy, a 1990. Looked exactly like this. Ford Escort XR3A Mark III, the last year they ever made it, 1990.
Yeah.
Factory fitted, rear spoiler, factory fitted fairings on the side, all stock RS 2000 body kit, 15-inch, better than these. Mine had 15-inch RS wheels.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Mercury grey, very fast car. It did rust very badly though. This was my stepdad's car. I bought it off him in 1998 for around £2,500. It was a demo car for the local Ford garage originally. I sold it in 2004 for I think about £600. It had rusted in the footwells. Where the spare wheel was had rusted. The engine compartment where the battery sat had rusted. It rusted so that you could put your hand into the past the firewall. That no longer existed. Yeah. So I put some chicken wire in and a load of plastic padding and painted it black and then put the battery back in and very safe. The wiring loom was rusted. Sometimes you would set the central locking with the car indicator and all the lights would flash like this, except occasionally they'd all stay on the driver's side and you'd have to turn the alarm on and off about 20 times to get that to undo. It often happened if it had been raining.
Yeah. Did the light fill up with water as well?
Yes, probably. One of the cars I currently own is a 16-year-old Honda, and there isn't a spot of rust on that car. This car was 14 years old when I sold it, and it was covered in rust. But my favourite car to drive, this was although front-wheel drive, such a fantastically fun car to drive. Electronic fuel injection. I think I did get rid of part of the exhaust and have it going a bit.
Fantastic.
So it was my wife's favourite car. She absolutely loved this car. Although I lived in East London, some little scallywags stole. I didn't call them that. I called them other names. Stole these spotlights off the front. They were always disappearing. Great car though,
I'd
fantastic
have that
car.
car, yeah.
And then I made some more money, and I bought the first. This was the first. I went away and lived in Asia. Had a few dodgy cars out there. Then I had a 4x4 back here, which you used to take the mickey out of and call. You used to say, "Is it Kofi Annan arrived?" I had a blue 4x4.
Presidential vehicle.
Yeah, somebody painted UN on the top in white. I think yours used to say. It was the Kofi Annan Daihatsu 4-track that I had, but I only had that briefly. And then I consider this is not a great car, but it was the first time I bought a car for more than a couple of grand. This was a relatively up-to-date car. It was only, I think, 4 or 5 years old. A 2004 Honda Civic Coupe in champagne gold.
Yes, I remember it well.
1.7 litre engine, VTEC engine, 4-speed auto box. The first time I got in the car and went, I sort of took a deep breath. I went, this works. This was the first car I ever owned that I could put the key in, turn it, and it worked. It didn't break down it. You could drive it for 300 miles and not feel like you'd been working at the coal mine. It had a CD player. It had aircon. The first car I ever owned with aircon. And it still lives and breathes. This is my father owns this car now. And he's taken it to France about 6 times. He goes to and from the golf course. It doesn't break down. It's got 130,000 on the clock. Sadly, though, no aircon. The condenser is gone. That's going to cost him 400 quid for a new one. The car is only probably worth 500 quid. So, but yeah, that was my first proper car. My final car on the cars that made me. I currently own a Honda Accord, which I love. But the final car that made me and turned my back against all things German was my midlife crisis car, which was my 2012 6-speed manual box, 2 litre, only a 2 litre, but 0 to 60 in 8.8 seconds. Which was pretty fair. The thing was made of paper, though. It had cream leather interior. I just had a daughter. She vomited all over that. Everything went wrong with this car. Electrics, problem with the wheels. They cracked, huge 20-inch alloys on run flats, prone to cracking. Emergency warning lights every 2 minutes. And every time that went off, it was something expensive. It was, this electrical part's gone. The best driving car I've ever owned. It was fantastic through country lanes, but awful for London, being a 6-speed manual. Pain in the backside, this car. I took it down to the south of France, and I was just worried about it constantly when I was there. Terrible. This highlighted the terrible build quality of BMWs as well. The both rear. I won't tell you what. I sold the car in the end. I won't tell you that I had the knowledge that the fact that both rear wheels were cracked, but yeah. Anyway, I did get rid of this car. It was a lovely car to drive, a proper driving car, but incredibly made of paper. BMW you need to make this car, but you need to make this car better.
Decent, yeah.
And that's the cars that made me, very briefly.
So the cars that made me, I learned to drive. The driving school I drove with had a Proton Persona.
Oh. Oh, so Malaysia's finest.
This would have been 2000, 2001. So yeah, okay. It was the old Mitsubishi Colt that they've just badged as a Proton.
Nice.
But first car I actually had used to belong to my sister, and she just gave it to me because it was this.
Yes, fantastic. I love the decals down the side. Very early 1990s.
Nicknamed the MILF-mobile because the last letters were MLF.
MLF, J-Reg, so 92?
Yes, no, 91. They basically
91.
91 to 94. It was the Ford Fiesta 1.3 Calypso. It did say Calypso on the boot.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this was a period, and Ford did it in the late 80s and early 90s. I remember them releasing the Ford Escort Pelican, which was their attempt to sell the old Mark III Escort before they bought the Mark IV in. Was that a similar thing with this car?
Yeah, it pretty much was. But what they did, what was unique about this car, not the fact that it was a purple stripe on the side, even though people said it was pink, it was purple.
Okay.
And fluorescent. At the top, I don't know whether you could see, but it had a full-length canvas roof.
That's a Webasto roof. Or was that electric?
Yeah, it was electric.
Wow.
It was great for plane spotting as well.
I was going to say, I was thinking of far more fun things to do in that. Get both the legs out the top of the roof. Fantastic. Wow. So it's like a limousine.
Yes, this car made me because it was 1.3. It had fat 13-inch wheels. So although they're 13-inch, they were hugely wide massively wide, and didn't have power steering. So
Okay.
built up my biceps using this, driving this car around. So that was that. That was the first car. But then I traded that in
Mm-hmm.
and got something that your other half lovingly calls the Ford CAC.
Ah, I remember this one.
This one was good, and I'd
Ah,
done it up. This was my rite of passage
ah,
to get in a better car because I had Cosworth style Escort Cosworth style front
nice.
wheels.
Yes, yes.
I had the front Lexus lights. No, BMW Halo lights,
Right.
and on the back I had Lexus lights, which I'm going to show you
Hmm.
in this picture.
So they actually fitted. Oh, wow, very cool.
But as you can see, this
Ah,
car got written off on the way to
ah,
Glastonbury. Someone crashed into the back of it, and you can see it's been cable tied together.
nice. Nice. So you were on the road to Glastonbury. What actually
Yeah.
happened? Somebody clipped you.
My friend in front slowed down. I slowed down, and the Saab behind just decided he'd carry on driving. So it was a three-car
Ah,
crash.
right.
I wrote off my car, but I used to love that car. It was great, even though your missus
Ah.
didn't like it.
No, she always
But it was,
hated a Ford cap. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but where the petrol cap is, they always rusted round there for some reason.
and this one didn't.
Ah,
But I'll come back to that later
okay,
on. So
okay.
yeah, that was the that, and then I traded the money from that. I then got this car, which was still a Ford.
Oh,
It's the Fiesta
oh,
1.4 16 valve black, and it was called black because it was the 100 year, the centenary year of
ah,
Ford. So it was a special edition, only available in
ah.
black.
Of course, because Henry Ford always said you can have it in any colour as long as it's black.
Yes, so it was black. It had black leather interior. It had blue light inside, which was always good and fun.
Yes.
Uh,
It shows that the protein stains that, yeah.
yes,
I could
but
see you've got somebody famous there as well. That was when we were making our program, Bangers and
yes,
Cash, before it
yes,
got stolen by another company. And
Honest
that
John.
is the Daily Telegraph's, get it right, that way, no, that way, Daily
Mm,
Telegraph's Honest John, who was making the
top
program
bloke.
with us. Yeah, very nice
Yes.
bloke.
But this car, when I got it, I did 70,000 miles in it. And the end, it had 127,000 miles on the clock.
Wow.
Did 70,000 miles in 7 years. Original timing belt, original
Nice.
clutch, original
Nice.
exhaust till 110,000 miles.
Oh,
Spent many a long journey driving up and down between London and Manchester in
just
this
a
car.
cool.
But I thought instead of paying out to get the belts changed, everything like that, just get rid of it.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
takes me to my next car, which was another Ford car, but this one was
Oh, the sport car.
1.6 engine. It's basically the spirit of the 205 GTI. 100 horsepower, wheel in every corner, at each corner, not in every corner because every car has every corner. But it was
Apart
good
from a
fun to drive.
Reliance
Yes,
and a Morgan.
this one also had a blue light inside.
How many times did you get pulled over in that?
None.
None, really?
None.
I think the key is you can have the blue light, you can have the gold tissue box, you can have the large alloys and the pumping music, but you can't have it all at the same time. If you have that all at the same time, you will get pulled over by the police.
But I love that car. It was good fun to drive. But then, midlife crisis car, because you had a midlife crisis and you bought a German car for a midlife.
I did. A German car.
I had a British car via Germany, which is of course the Mini. So this is my Mini, not with that number plate anymore. Different number plate on there. I always wanted an original shape Mini Cooper, but then when this shape Mini came out, the prices of the old ones went up massively, and they were decided they were classic cars. So I didn't get one of those. So this is my midlife crisis car. This is the car I drive at the moment. It is, to give you some stats on it, it is 184 horsepower.
Wow.
From 1.6 litre turbo.
Nice.
6-speed, 140 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in 6.6 seconds. May have tried that, may not have. DAB radio, electric panoramics, moonroof, and like your midlife crisis car, has cream leather interior.
Nice. And hopefully you haven't had, because this is your current car, so you hopefully haven't had the problems I had with my BMW.
Not yet.
I do have a picture of you that I took earlier of you when you were looking at mini cars to buy. And I just want to know why you felt the need to take two chefs with you when you went to go and try out this soft top.
It was just one of those things that you just had to do. So
okay.
But that's the car I currently have, and I love my Mini.
It
So
is
much fun.
it is a thing of beauty, and I'm pleased to hear that you aren't having any problems. Although I heard the diesel versions and the automatic versions are to be avoided like the plague.
To get really geeky, mine is a 2010 car, which they did all the revisions on, because
Right.
the original 1.6 litre turbo engine was based on a Peugeot engine, which you get in the 207 GTI.
Okay.
But this one's what's called the N18 engine, which had less problems, and they had sorted all of them out. And BMW had more a hand in the engine on this one, so that's why it has less of the problems. Touch wood.
So those are the cars that make us. They're not going to be our final cars. We are going to go out and buy more, and we're going to be reviewing cars over many years, hopefully, to come on this podcast. It's time now for our Lost Highways section of the show. If I can find some music. Oh, I love a bit of royalty-free country and western. Yes, Lost Highways. This is our feature where listeners email in and give us their favourite driving roads and the reason they love them. It could be a quiet coastal road that leads down to the sea. Alternatively, it could be a straight two-lane blacktop that leads to infinity and invites you to gun the pedal to the metal. Whatever your poison is, let us know your perfect driving road here at Car-boyz. This week, as it's our 50th 50 episode of the show, our half century, we thought we'd talk about our favourite driving roads, in Lost Highways, and why we love them. For me, I have to travel across to a country I used to live in, the nation of Malaysia, and the tropical island of Langkawi in the Indian Ocean. It has the best driving road for me in the world. More specifically, it's the 278 road that heads up the mountain of Gunung Raya, one of the most interesting and exciting I have ever driven. Known as the highest mountain in Langkawi, Gunung Raya peaks at 881 meters high. Dense forest. It houses numerous wildlife such as leaf monkeys, flying foxes, macaques, squirrels, mountain horned eagles, white-bellied sea eagles, great hornbills. According to local beliefs, the mountain is the cursed form of a giant called Mat Raya, who once lived on the island. I'm not sure about that, but it is fun to drive up. It's 30-minute long scenic drive to the top with several lookout points along the way. The mountain peak is a massive granite formation, which offers spectacular views. That's part of the winding road, and that really is very, very windy. It's a massive granite formation that offers spectacular views of Langkawi's verdant surroundings, neighbouring islets, and the Andaman Sea. Now, you get the road that leads up to the top of the mountain by driving up the 112 highway. You look north for a sign to the mountain and the 278 numbered road. Now, you'll know you're there because as you turn off to the main road, and I looked this up the other day and it's still there, is an ancient white Austin Allegro parked in the driveway where you go up the mountain. And I was like, Malaysians do like a maxi. They used to love the maxi, and they still like Austin, obviously, because this guy has a white Austin Allegro parked right by the side of the mountain road. You go all the way to the very top. I was, and it's rather strange when you get to the top because it's also a Malaysian military listening station at the very top of the mountain. My wife thinks this is where Bond's evil villain lives. And
at the top, there's a man stroking a cat.
Mr. Bond, I have been expecting you. Now, when you do get to the top, you might get warned off by a couple of military officials in army uniform, as I have in the past. This was also the listening station that picked up Malaysian flight MH370 that disappeared over the Indian Ocean in Mauritius, or around about there. Know anything about this, Simon? We do want to know.
No.
Does your family in Mauritius have a jumbo parked on the driveway? You like planes? Hang on, I'm seeing a link here. Don't let this put you off, though. Driving up this road, it's really, really good fun. Also, in general, the roads on Langkawi are fantastic. The current Prime Minister, who was a former Prime Minister of Malaysia, turned it into an eco-friendly sort of tourist destination. I say the roads are superb. And you're not in the back and beyond here as well. There's loads of cafes on the roadside, lots of coffee shops. It is known as the Jewel of Kedah, Langkawi. Has 99 islands. I think a bit like, isn't that like Heinz? For its role as a pirate's hideaway in the 18th century. Also, it's now a hideaway for fat tourists. Also, it's really good because it's duty-free, so cigars and beer are very cheap. That's another reason I like it. But
like that.
Going up that mountain, when you hire a car, Malaysia does the incredible small cars. I used to own one, a Perodua Canchil,
Nipper?
which is
Oh, okay.
it's the Canchil in which means small in Bahasa, and it's 455cc. Now I hired one of these, and I said, "Oh, can I go up the Gunung Raya?" And the lady said, "No, you cannot go up." I'm like, okay, and I just ignored her, and I had my two brother-in-laws in the back that are big blokes, and my wife, and we went up to the mountain because I figured if the engine blows up, I'll just coast it down to the bottom. But it got up there, no problem. It's such a fun little drive. There's nobody else on it. It's a really strange place to go to. And you just drive up there really slowly. And literally you're seeing monkeys on the side of the road. We've got all this verdant green rainforest. So yeah, that is my driving road. And it's really good fun.
So first gear, 6,000 RPM.
Oh yeah, you just... And they get the occasional speed bump as well in this thing as you're going up the mountain. There's just no traffic up there. It's lovely. And because of that, the sort of wildlife just... You'll see a monitor lizard just wander out on the road and look at you and go, "Yeah, what do you want? What do you want?" You'll see monkeys like sitting on sort of the barriers on the side of the road, just looking at you, seeing if you're going to give them any food or bananas or anything. Great driving road, very good, very much fun.
Well, my great driving road is less exotic, and it's near where I live.
Okay.
It's roughly 8 miles. It's a drive from Waltham Abbey to Chingford. Chingford, of course, being the birthplace of David Beckham.
Oh, yes, of course.
It starts at the A121 at Waltham Abbey.
Okay.
At the Royal Gunpowder Mills, which dates back to the 1660, and it's where allegedly Guy Fawkes sourced his explosives for the gunpowder.
Okay.
The road gently follows a parallel between the River Lee, which is of course the subject of the track by Tottenham's most famous daughter, Adele.
Okay, so that's the view from the from the road.
Yep, and the road heads south. It joins the A112, which meanders through 4 miles of open fields, campsites. There's a campsite there if you want to go, farmhouses, and through the villages of Stewardston and Gilwell Hill. The initial uphill section takes you onto a crest where you'll be greeted by the sight of two of London's drinking reservoirs, which is the King George and the William Girling reservoirs. That, if you didn't know, if you get a flight from the Far East or Europe, if you look out the window as your plane comes in, it's the best landmark to see. So I know where I live because I can see the reservoir.
It's a shame you don't have a parachute. You can't actually just drop you off here.
And because the planes go over my garden, I can actually see into the garden, which is always good.
Oh, quite sad, yeah.
That's on one side, but then if you look straight ahead, because of course that's where the road's going, you get a view of the city and the City of London's most iconic buildings: the Shard, the Gherkin, the NatWest building, and the Telecom Tower. It's all downhill from then on, with some sweeping curves on the way down through to Chingford to the North Circular. This is one of my favourite roads because it has everything. It's downhill, sweeping left and right, and a 90-degree left-hander, which is always good fun to go around. And it's just been resurfaced too, which is always
nice and bargain.
It's the road I like to take if my car just needs to just go on a drive. That's where I would go.
And does it have fond memories? Are there plenty of lay-bys for you to have pulled up as a teenager with young ladies as well?
Yeah, not in the cars I had.
I can say you would have struggled in that Fiesta.
Yes.
You're really,
Even with the roof open.
Yeah.
But I could be presidential in it. I could stand out.
That's true. You could be a 90s dictator of a third world country, standing up, giving your salute to your people, like this.
In a Matisse blue Fiesta Calypso.
I like the 90s squiggle on the side.
Yeah,
it's a shame.
You
needed somebody breakdancing as well on that, a little figure breakdancing.
So that's my driving road.
And can you go? I'm not saying that you ever do, but can you go? Because my driving road, I would not say you could go very fast on it. It's just a very pleasant, beautiful. You're going through the jungle. Can you drive fast on that road?
There are stretches where you can drive pretty fast, of course, obeying the speed limit.
Of course, always within the speed limit.
70 miles an hour down mostly. But yeah, the twisty stuff is good fun to drive down.
Fantastic. So, yes, that's about it. I think we're coming to the end of the show, really. Yeah. We've done driving roads. We've looked at, this is basically this 50th show. We'll have another go with the birthday candle if I can get it lit. There we go. Happy birthday to us. 50th episode. Where we still need your contributions because you're important to us, dear viewer as opposed to listener now, because we are now the beautiful 21st century technology. I was going to say 20th century technology of television. You can email the Car-boyz at car-boyz@outlook.com. Facebook with car-boyz and Car-boyz with 4 Zs. Twittering car-boyz at car_boys. Instagram at car_boys with 3 Zs because 4 Zs are gone. There's Instagram. Someone's showing you Instagram right now. So yeah, get in touch with the show. Suggest your driving roads. Suggest your lost highways. Features you'd like to see included in the show. Classic car selections that we can take a look at for you. So yeah, that's about it. It's thank you for tuning in for our 50th episode, brought to you in glorious Technicolor. As we are broadcasting, as I said, in televisual pictures across the globe. So yeah, that's it. We'll be back, I assume, next week if we both have survived the coronavirus that continues to be going on and on and on. Have you got any plans for this week?
No, I think I'll just celebrate the 50th show for the week.
Yeah, I would just do that with a large bottle of hand sanitizer in a glass with some orange juice poured into the top, which I hear is, you know, it's clean because it's like bleach. It cleans you very good on the inside. Wonderful, wonderful stuff.
China.
Thanks for tuning in, folks. We're going to be back same time, same bat channel, same bat time. Join us then for more fun and frolics from the world of motoring. Say goodbye, Simon.
Goodbye, Simon.
Bye-bye.